Welcome everybody to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. This is the meeting of February 2nd, 2015, and we are very happy to have you with us. It is our chance to highlight innovation and service and just share good ideas however we can. This is the second meeting of our club, and we hope that what you find as a part of being a guest or one of the new members in our group is that this is a great way to learn about what Rotary is and is doing around the world. Our speaker today is Kevin Brookhauser. Kevin is a friend. Kevin is an educator who makes wildly cool things happen for students who respond by doing wildly cool things, which is pretty great. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, to introduce himself to the club, also about the work that he is doing, and I've also asked him to talk about a book that he has just written and is just been published. So with that, I would like to introduce Kevin Brookhauser of the York School and a charter member of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Big hand.
Hey, thanks, Rushton. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so my name is Kevin Brookhauser. I'm a teacher at York School in Monterey, California. A really cool school. Google it, check it out. Love that place. Has a really strong commitment to serving the community, reaching a broad, diverse student body, and also preparing their students for the future, which is kind of one of the focuses that I'm on as a teacher. So. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got started here with the Rotary. I have a little bit of experience with the Rotary of Monterey. My head of school is a member there, and I got invited to come out there. I got an award from the local membership or the local club there, and but other than that little experience, I didn't know that much about it. And then Rushton told me about this club that he was starting, and you know, when Rushton asks you to join something, you know, you pretty much do it. I'm just a huge fan of Rushton and trust him so much, and any time to any chance to expand my interaction with that guy, I like to take that chance. But since then, I've learned a lot about the club, and I really am inspired by this club in particular because of its commitment to service and also its commitment specifically toward youth and entrepreneurialism, and you know, that's really my passion as well. And that's kind of what this book that I've been working on for the past year or so and just published this week is about. It's called the 20 Time Project, how educators can launch Google's formula for future-ready innovation. It's available on Amazon. Check it out. And so let me just jump in and give you a little background on how this project got started and what it is. So I'm going to share my screen here. And share. And now I launch the keynote. Okay, so here's the deal. We all know we've got huge, major problems in our world, and we adults have done a terrible job of solving these problems. I'm talking about the water crisis we have here, deforestation, poverty, global terrorism, education, global education, substance abuse, and the energy crisis, and much, much more. One of my personal projects or concerns that I have is the digital divide, the fact that some students have access to technology and others do not, and that creates a huge gap of access. And you know, this is not the solution to bridging the digital divide. I tend to think Chromebooks are one really great answer to that. But anyway, so we've done a terrible job of solving these problems as adults, and I just don't really have a lot of faith in us to be able to solve those problems. And I do have faith in our students' ability to solve those problems. And that's really where I'm putting my energy, is trying to create an atmosphere where students know how to solve really difficult problems that we adults cannot. So how do we go about motivating problem solving? Well, in order to talk about that, I want to talk about two different types of problems that we as teachers need to teach students how to solve. And the first one is algorithmic problem solving. And what do I mean by algorithmic problem solving? Well, these are algorithmic problems are the problems that we've already solved. I'm thinking, which there to use in a sentence, how to determine the force of an object. Newton figured that one out for us, mass times acceleration, or how to find the hypotenuse of a triangle. These are all problems that that people have already solved, and our job as teachers is to teach students how to solve those problems using those algorithms. And I got to say, I love algorithmic problem solving. I think that having students solve these problems and learn how to solve these problems is a very critical component of education. And how do we go about motivating students to solve these algorithmic problems? Well, we teachers are very, very good at this. It's quite simple. We bribe our students to solve those problems. And what do I mean by that? Well, we offer rewards for solving those problems well in the forms of good grades, and we threaten them if they do not solve those problems well, we give them bad grades. And I know that some school districts have gone so far as to even pay students money to get good grades. And I would argue that when we're talking about algorithmic problems, that works. But here's the deal. We're not dealing with just algorithmic problems. We want our students to know how to solve problems that we don't have the solutions to. And I like to think of those as wicked problems. That's a term that the military uses sometimes. These are problems that are so complex and so difficult to solve, and and they change as well. The solutions or the problems themselves, nature of the problems change, just like the problems that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation. So I want to talk about, let me hop out of here. I want to show you a quick video game. Let's see here. I'm going to launch this. So this is a game called Limbo. This is one of my favorite video games. Alright, so I'm going to load a chapter. And in this game, you are a boy. Just like in most video games, and your goal is to go from left to right. And as I go through this log, I'm walking along and I realize, oh my goodness, you realize that this is a very dangerous world that this boy lives in. Luckily, you have infinite respawns, meaning you can die and come back to life, and you learn through your mistakes. Rushton, are you seeing this game okay?
Seeing it just fine. Great.
All right, so why am I playing a video game in front of this talk? Well, other than the fact that I just love playing video games, no, I think that the designers of this video game are really clever, and they expose some interesting psychological phenomena. So I'm walking along here trying to save my little sister, and I come across a pond, and I've got to get across this pond. And I realize I do not know how to swim. So you look and you've got a crate here. All right, so maybe if I push this crate a little further on this pond. No, that doesn't work. And so when I played this game for the first time, I spent about 25 minutes trying to get across this freaking pond and unable to do that. I tried to use this as a boat and a bridge, and nothing seemed to work. And I was almost tempted to check YouTube, but I didn't. I grabbed the crate, and I dragged it back this way. And I realized that this crate could help me get to this vine, which I could swing over to this other tree and eventually climb over the pond, over the trees. Now, what's going on here? I think what's going on is, let's see, a second. These video game designers are revealing a psychological phenomenon called functional fixedness. When you come across this crate in the pond, you tend to think that the crate is a pond crossing device. Functional fixedness is the idea that a tool has only one purpose given its context. So the context of the crate is the pond, therefore it is a pond crossing device. Well, I would argue, well, it's not. But I think the video game designers put it in the pond to try to trick us into thinking that it is. So let's talk about the functional fixedness. I think overcoming functional fixedness is one of the ways we go about solving these wicked problems. So let's talk about a wicked problem that Google is attempting to solve, and that is part of this digital divide business. Getting broadband internet access to metropolitan areas like San Jose or Beijing is quite easy because the economies of scale work really well. The challenge is getting broadband internet access to remote regions like the middle of Africa and Australia. And one of the things that Google has done to solve this problem is to launch balloons. Project Loon is what they're doing is they're taking 3G transceivers and putting them on balloons that are filled with helium, and there's another chamber on these balloons that can be filled with air. And if you put air in if the remotely controlled fan blows air into the balloons lower in altitude. If you suck the air out, it raises in altitudes. And these balloons follow predictable wind patterns. And they're up at 70,000 feet, twice the height of, twice the cruising altitude of your average airliner. And they're following these wind patterns, and they can actually control where they all go. And so all of these devices talk to each other, and then they send signals down to the Earth and allow people to access the internet with their mobile devices. This is just an amazing solution to a really difficult problem, and I think that they've overcome functional fixedness by coming up with the idea that a balloon could be the tool for this solution. You know, when I think of the function, when my feeble brain thinks of the function of a balloon, it thinks of a great device to tour wine country or something, not to solve this really challenging digital problem. So how do we go about motivating people to solve wicked problems or to solve problems that require this kind of thinking? Well, one of the inspirations for my book, this whole project, is a book called Bribe by Daniel Pink. And his research reveals that these bribes that we use for algorithmic problem solving, they not only fail to work for creative problem solving, but they actually discourage creative problem solving, which kind of flies in the face of every capitalistic bone in my body. If we were to take this same problem, this limbo problem, and give it to two groups of people, and we told one group of the people, I'll pay you $50 to solve this problem in 5 minutes. And you take the other group of people and say, just solve the problem. A very surprising thing happens. The group that is not offered any money solves the problem faster. Let me repeat. The group that is not offered any money solves the problem faster. Why would that be? Well, there's a lot of theories. I think the way I think about it is when you're given a reward like $50 to solve a problem, I think you get focused. And I'm a big fan of focus. I think focus is a really important skill that our students and everyone needs to develop. It's a discipline. And I think that there's definitely a time and place for it. But I think when you're attempting to solve problems that require true innovation, I think focus can be the enemy sometimes. I think you get so focused that you don't see opportunities outside of that narrow focus. So, how do we go about motivating wicked problem solving if grades and extrinsic motivators are not the solution? Dan Pink says that we need to provide 3 things to create an atmosphere that embraces innovation and allows people to solve these really difficult problems. And those are autonomy, give people more freedom in what they learn and how they learn it. Mastery, show students that they're getting incrementally better at the skill that they're developing. And then finally, purpose. Show students that the learning that they're doing has a purpose outside of the classroom. Now let me explain a little further. Google and 3M are 2 companies that get this. They're companies that thrive and depend upon their employees being innovative. and solving really difficult problems. So 3M has a program called bootleg projects. They allow their employees to use 3M's vast resources for engineers to take on pet projects. And one engineer was taking on a project. He wanted to develop a very sticky adhesive. He wanted to create the next like crazy glue, right? And he used 3M's labs, and he tested this one with this one adhesive, and it was a failure. It wasn't sticky at all. It was just like a little bit sticky. And then that weekend he goes to church on Sunday, and he sees that his bookmark falls out of his hymnal. And he thought, well, what if I put that not so sticky adhesive on my bookmark? That might be really useful. Thus was born the Post-it note. Google does the same thing. They have 20% time. So there's a culture within Google where employees take on pet projects, and they call it 20% time. And Gmail is one of those projects. An employee wanted to fix email, and he created Gmail. And a lot of Google's most profitable services are a product of Google telling employees, hey, take on your own autonomous projects. So I was reading about these programs at Google and 3M and other organizations, and I thought, what if I applied some of these principles to my classroom? And so I told my students, all right, we're going to do this thing called the 20% project. I'm going to give you basically a day a week to take on a project that is meaningful to others, that has a purpose, but you're going to come up with it. And so I developed it, and a lot of other teachers started doing it as well, and we kind of rally around this hashtag on Twitter called 20time. And so how does it work? Well, it starts up with coming up with ideas. And you guys know we start with brainstorming ideas. And you know the cardinal rule of brainstorming is that there's no such thing as a bad idea. But the thing is, like, students know better, that if they're in a classroom and they put down a bad idea, throw a bad idea out there, then their students all the other kids are going to judge them on that idea. So instead of allowing bad ideas, for 20 minutes in my class, I mandate that they come up with bad ideas. And what that does is have them come up with brand new ideas, and some of them are just absolutely horrifically bad, and that's what we're going for. But I'm not really looking for bad ideas, but I'm trying to create a culture of play and a culture in my classroom where students are okay with throwing out an idea that might not work, because I think that's where the good ideas start to develop. And so I have them create these bad ideas, and it's a delightful time, but then eventually good ideas come out of those bad ideas. And then I have them draft up a proposal. And this is a formal like business plan that I have them write up. I've got this template that I have them express the needs and opportunities they're addressing, the clients that they're going to be serving, their timeline with a bunch of deliverables. I ask them to really show what the product is that they're going to show at the end of the year. And but I also ask them to think about their budget. How are they going to budget it? And then finally, their conclusion should be inspiring, because they're going to deliver these proposals to the class, and we, the students and teachers, approve those or reject those proposals based on how inspiring we find them. Here are a few of the proposals, or of the projects that my students worked on last year.
I experienced 1 month in a wheelchair to see life from a different point of view.
With the help of therapy dogs, we shared our love for animals and brought happiness to hospital patients and children.
I cut sugar out of my diet to bring awareness of the epidemic of diabetes in America.
I created a piece of experimental short fiction.
I built a community of readers with over 1,000 subscribers by making videos about books on YouTube.
I devoted my mornings to composing an excessively complicated jazz piece.
I designed a reusable bag to do my part and encourage others to do their part in saving the ocean.
I put together a group of dark musicians, and we mentored students from a middle school band in America.
I taught myself my native language in order to connect with my Armenian heritage.
We performed.
Okay, let me stop it there because I don't have too much more time. And let's see here. So here's Audrey. She started a concert, and because she loves performing, but I asked her to make sure that it had a purpose, and so it was to raise money for a local library that had experienced a fire. Actually, it wasn't to raise money. It was to raise books. So they lost a bunch of their books, and so admission to this concert was a book. And she raised, several hundred books just for this one concert. It was really a really cool project. So I also have my students blog throughout the entire process, and that's the way I can keep track of them, keep the students accountable that they're moving forward with their projects. And I have them post once a week, and I have them ask what they've been working on, what they're currently working on, and what they plan to work on next. So here's an example of Maria's blog post. She started a YouTube channel to inspire students to read more. Now, in the middle of the year, I have my students memorize what's called an elevator pitch. And the idea is, let's say you're stuck in an elevator, and you find out that you're in an elevator with somebody who has the power to make your idea a reality. And you've got 1 minute to pitch that idea to that person. And so here is an elevator pitch.
Reading is incredibly important, not only for formal learning purposes, but to expand vocabulary and increase creativity. But it seems that not a lot of people nowadays like to read. So for my 20% project, I'm making book-related videos on YouTube, book reviews, book tags, book discussions, and more. The target audience for my videos are people who love to read and want to discuss. I also hope to influence those who don't like to read that much to become more passionate about books. I currently have 122 subscribers, and I have reached a lot of authors and readers alike. I can't wait to see where my project goes from here.
Isn't she adorable? So let's see, Maria said she had like 100 and some subscribers. That was a year and a month ago, 13 months ago. She now has well over 1,400 subscribers. Her channel's really taken off, and she's just doing amazing work. Here's Kian.
I love creating, writing, and telling stories, and for me, telling a story through a video game is combining the best of both worlds. I recently wrote a sci-fi storyline named Extant Justice. To bring the story to life, I have used different 3D modeling and animation programs, such as Autodesk Maya and Autodesk Mudbox.
Okay, so Kian is really passionate about computer science and also telling stories. I gotta say, teachers, if your students love programming and they're passionate about it, you have to find a way to let them use computer programming as a means for you, as a means to develop their skill in your content, even if it's not computer programming. I think that's really important. So here's Nick.
Every night, millions of kids stare at their math books.
Start over. That's such a good hook. Try again.
Every night, millions of kids stare at their math books, struggling, hoping to come up with solutions. They either just can't understand it or not have access to the wonderful teachers that we do. Sadly, many do not have any teachers at all. I would like to solve this problem and make a website specifically designed to help kids with difficult math subjects with explanations and links to videos.
So you see that isn't this an amazing idea that this kid is creating a website to reach students? Now there are other platforms out there like Khan Academy is creating videos, but this one is made by a teenager, so it's specifically for teenagers, which is a pretty cool project. He stumbled a little bit on the beginning. Well, we have a policy in this class during 20% time that we really do embrace the little mistakes. And I've even got a poster in my classroom that says, done is better than perfect. Now, I like to say I don't want to see this poster in my dentist's office, right? You definitely don't want to see it in the parachute packing factory, right? And in fact, in my class, there's plenty of opportunities where I do expect my students to strive for perfection, and I'm thinking that they use the correct there in a sentence. I would like them to get that perfect. But I found that when I'm asking students to be creative and innovative, that the quest for perfection almost always leads to incompletion. It's really important to me that they have something finished at the end of the year to show off. And so I also say that failure is an option, failure to deliver is not. And just to hammer that home, I recorded it in an app, and I made it a song. Failure is an option. Failure is an option. Failure is an option.
Failure is an option. Failure to deliver is not.
Okay, it's not a good song, but it is a song that and I have no musical talent, but I do have an app. Anyway, it worked. It got that into their heads. Well, so the 20% project culminates in a big pageant, and it's modeled after the TED conference. And I have my students memorize a 5-minute talk about their project, and we make it look like the TED conference. You notice we got that red rug and the sign and the big projector, and we we use the stage at the school. It's a really great opportunity. These are some girls talking about, and I don't have time to show you the talk, but I've got it posted on my website, 20time.org. And so then they're talking about this program where they went to a senior citizen facility to teach seniors how to use Facebook. And it turned out to be a really, really inspiring project. And the reason I highlight this one is because a lot of kids come to me with no idea what to do. And you know, my traditional response was, well, what are you passionate about? And I get some students who just say that they're not passionate about anything. And these kids didn't really know what they wanted to do. And so I decided not to worry about the passion thing anymore. And I diminished the importance of the word passion in the whole thing. I start with purpose. I give them, if they have no idea what they want to do, I give them a purpose. I give them a project that has a real purpose. And we hand it to these girls the job to teach senior citizens how to use Facebook. And the moment these kids saw the meaning they were giving to these older people, they were allowing these people to see images of their grandchildren they had never seen before. They'd given these people access to a community they didn't have access to before. And guess what happened as a result of this purpose? They got passionate, and it was really, really amazing. So I really believe that passion follows purpose, and I think that that's probably the right way to handle it. Here's some kids working with the local SPCA. This is what classrooms, I think, should look like. You can see that they've got a group, we got a small team working together. Yeah, this kid's on his phone, but they're working on a project, solving a real-world problem, and they're passionate about it. And they're learning their content along the way. So there's this big push in moving from teacher-centered to student-centered. And I would like to argue that we need to move from teacher-centered to student-centered, but also to audience-centered. Let me tell you what that means. So teacher-centered learning is kind of the traditional classroom that most people expect to see. A teacher standing in front of a classroom, probably at a chalkboard, delivering information to students. Hey, I think there's time and place for that. Student-centered learning is more when students take more control of their learning and have more autonomy, and the purpose of student-centered learning is for students to understand how their learning is going to help them, rather than simply please a teacher. But I think if we move towards audience-centered learning and we look toward giving students projects where they realize that the work that they're doing, that they're not just learning to better themselves, but they're learning to better others. That's where the real purpose comes from, and that's where I also think that the real deep problem solving comes from. So I'll wrap it up there. I'm going to end my screen share. Stop screen sharing. And let's see. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me talk about that for 25 minutes or so. Rushton, you have any questions? Any follow-up questions you want to talk about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for being part of the club. Very, very cool to have that message for us. I think it's one that very much speaks to what we hope to accomplish in the eClub of Silicon Valley. How can we make technology service inspire people to get out and do great things? And I think a lot of those students are future Rotarians, right? To anyone who might be listening in, if you hover over your screen, you'll see some options appear on the left, one of which is Q&A. And so feel free to toss a question in there. If you can do it quickly, we'll get it in. What I'll start with, though, is this. Kevin, when we talk about the passion following the purpose, getting that sense of, oh, okay, this is really something important, and the the older folks being able to learn to use Facebook to be able to connect with their families and grandchildren and stuff like that. That's pretty amazing. Can you give me another example or two of stuff that ended up being kind of service focused in terms of what students were doing?
Yeah, so let's see. Like I showed you, I had some students who were working with a local SPCA, and they were committed to helping them with their social media campaign. And the kids were really motivated by the fact that they could bring their experience in using technology and bringing that over to help animals. Let's see. So during the Bad Idea Factory one time, one of my students said he said this as a bad idea. I want to be homeless for a week. And I turned that around to him and said, hey, maybe there's something good out of that idea. What if you were homeless for a week? What do you think would happen about that? And he started to get really excited, and to the point where I kind of got bigger than I thought I felt comfortable. It's like, we need to talk to your parents about becoming homeless for a week first. Let's get permission. But what he ended up doing was really researching in depth the homeless population in his community, and instead of actually spending a week being homeless, but he spent several months getting to know homeless people and documenting their stories, photographing them with their permission, and really learning that this population has these individuals have really interesting stories, and these tragic stories. A lot of them were they were there because they didn't have access to the health care that they needed, or they were veterans. They weren't able to get the help that all the help that they needed, and it was just a really inspiring. And what that project did allowed him to build empathy, and then by creating this project, share that empathy with others.
Very cool. Well, at any rate, I think that one of the things that we might aim to do with the club is begin to capture some of the messages that I think the students have about what they're learning, and include those in our meetings, so that our members and our guests can hear more about what they're doing. Because obviously, when we think about our school experience, it's mostly like, write this down, tell it again to me later, right? So very powerful that you're making something really wonderful happen there. So with that, let's wind this down. And so first of all, this is Kevin Brookhauser, member of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and all of you who are members of our club, you too will be doing a program where you introduce the stuff that you find the important, passionate in your life, and that way we also get to know the rest of our team well as well. So Frank is online and catching this, and so Frank, if you want to toss a question in there, I can see you kind of like making that happen right now, but if you want to toss it in, that'd be fine. Just for our members and guests, as always, note that under where this video is embedded in the meeting, currently not happening as a recorded, of course, but in the meeting of the week of February 2nd, you'll see below that there's a place to show that you attended via a little survey, and a place to post a comment. And we ask everyone to post a comment. We always want people to post a comment so that they can share their thoughts on not just the meeting, but also to tell what's going on in their lives. That's how we stay in touch with each other. So with that, Frank, awesome that you're here. I'm not seeing a question. That may be a technical problem, but we can always get it worked into to a piece we go, oh, there it is. Do you have any plans to share this presentation? Absolutely. We will certainly do so. And Kevin, I think he's asking specifically about the slide presentation too. Is that something that can be available to people?
No, I don't make that slide presentation available, but because it doesn't make much sense out of its context.
Okay.
And so, but all of the content is certainly available on my website, 20time.org, which has a overview of how 20time works. And if you do want to dive in deep to this content, definitely check out the book.
Cool. And we'll make sure that the link to the 20time site and the book is available, on our meeting page as well. Tracy in Canada has a question.
Yeah, so Tracy asks, heard that Google is no longer doing 20 times. Is that true? If so, do you know the reasoning? No, it's not true. That did go around for a while, but the notion of 20 times, it's not as simple as at Google. It's not as simple as everyone gets 1 day a week to do whatever they want. That's not really how it works. It's more of a culture that encourages people to take on independent projects, and no one will say, "Hey, you can't do this." But if an idea is good enough, and they can get people to join, they can get other engineers at Google to join their idea, then and that idea gets traction. And once that idea gets more and more momentum within Google, then it can even become a real project. And that's still going on. If you read Eric Schmidt's book, How Google Works, he has an entire chapter, or at least a big chunk of it, devoted to 20 time, and it's alive and well at Google.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody, I hope you have enjoyed this presentation and the meeting that will have happened by the time you see it. And I hope that everybody has a great week as well. So thank you again, Kevin. Thank you all of you who attended. And with that, we'll hope to see you next week.
Thank you.